Hello and welcome back to the Sky and the Shy podcast. This is episode 5 and I'm your host, Edwin Garcia. Today we are going to talk about the WNBA All-Star game. We're going to recap the game and see how the Chicago Sky participants did. We're going to talk about the Chicago Sky being 10-10 at the Olympic break. Now that we are right officially in the middle of the Olympic break. And we're going to talk about the Olympics and the Chicago Sky players participating in it. Let's get into it. So the WNBA All-Star game took place in Vegas this year, and I really love the concept of doing a Team USA versus the WNBA All-Stars. I think that was great. It was a great way to make sure that we had an All-Star game, and it was a great way to kind of send off Team USA and kind of create some friendly competition with Team USA and the WNBA All-Star team. I think in overall it was a more fun experience. I like the WNBA's All-Star game a bit better than the other All-Star games from other leagues. I think in the WNBA, yes, it's still an All-Star game, not much defense and things like that, but I think there's still a little bit more competitive spirit, and it's just a little bit more of an interesting experience. So the final score was 85-93. The WNBA All-Stars actually beat Team USA, which I think was something that'll hopefully light a fire in Team USA as they go on to try to defend their gold medal and to get a new one. And I really liked it. I think it was an entertaining game, and it gave us some really nice moments between players, a little bit of jawing, a little bit of playing around on the bench. We have Liz Cambage, of course, eating some popcorn and things like that so on the bench. So it was a very fun, entertaining game, and I enjoyed the WNBA All-Star game for what it is, what it was, and I'm looking forward to next year's. I really wish we had one last year. I'm still upset about that, still frustrated. Not even that we didn't have an All-Star game, but just the fact there were no All-Star awards last year. That just was really something I wasn't happy about. So I'm glad this year, even though things are still, very much in a pandemic year and still dealing with the pandemic, I'm glad they were able to have an All-Star game, able to reward the players who deserved being All-Stars. And I'm happy that WNBA All-Stars balled out enough to beat Team USA. And of course, we had 3 representatives here for the Chicago Sky. And I think overall they all performed well in their roles. Courtney Vandersloot had 7 assists and 1 rebound in her 17 minutes of play. Kalia Copper had 9 points, 2 rebounds, and 1 assist in her 14 minutes of play. And Candace Parker had 5, 5, and 5 in her 18 minutes of play. So all around, I think it was good performances from the Chicago Sky participants. No one, worthy of the MVP award or anything like that. But I did think that it was a good representation of Chicago Sky players and what makes this team special this year. 3 All-Stars. It's hard to do, and props to the Chicago Sky players for performing well. And speaking of good performances, shout out to Arike Ogunbowale for her performance. She had 26 points in 26 minutes, which is insane. She led all scorers, and she took home the MVP award, which was much deserved. She had a great performance. Another bright spot for the Chicago Sky in the WNBA All-Star Game festivities was the 3-point contest, where Allie Quigley was able to win again. This is her 3rd 3-point contest. At this point, she's a certified shooter. She's been that for a while, and I'm just really happy for her winning this again and continuing to show that she's probably the best shooter in the WNBA, period. She did say afterwards this was the last time she's going to do it, which I understand. She's done it a lot. I think she's proven that she's a straight-up shooter. So what is there left to prove when you already won the contest 3 times? But I don't know. I would like to see another time, but I totally get it. She's done it enough. She's proved everything, and I'm glad she won it again. Congratulations to Allie Quigley on being the 3-point champ again. Now, of course, that was the final kind of game for Team USA on their way to the Olympics. And the WNBA is now officially not only in their All-Star break, they're on their Olympic break, and there will be no action for quite a bit of time. The Sky play next on August 15th, so there's going to be a significant break here for almost all of the players. But before that break, the Sky had one more game before the All-Star break, which was after the recording of the previous podcast, and that was against the Washington Mystics. And against the Washington Mystics, the Chicago Sky lost 89-85, making them officially 10-10 and 500 for the year. Obviously, this loss was disappointing. I know a lot of Chicago Sky fans wanted the team to be at least one game above 500, kind of stay on a strong pace. They had all those monster wins when CP3 came back and everyone was kind of fully healthy on the team. The team went on a bit of a streak after that horrendous losing streak. And lately it's kind of been a little bit more even, a little bit more of a mixed bag on wins and losses. And that ultimately ended up with the Chicago Sky losing to the Mystics 89-85. I think the game was really pretty balanced. It was back and forth every quarter. Someone else won the quarter. So the Mystics started off 31-22 in the first, and the Chicago Sky punched right back 22-15 in the second, and it kind of just kept going back and forth like that quarter after quarter, which is why the game ultimately ended up going to overtime, and the Mystics were able to pull it out in OT. So again, I don't think there's too much to read into this game. I think this was just the final game before the break, and the gap between this game and the next game is so massive that it's going to kind of be a refresh and a restart for the Chicago Sky. I think when you look at the Chicago Sky's record and think of the context of everything we've talked about, of all the injuries, all the expectations, being so low at a certain point in the season where, the team was on, I believe, a 7-game losing streak, which is a lot in a season that only has, 30 plus games. And I think when you take into account everything, the Sky are very fortunate to be 10-10. I think in the middle of that losing streak, you probably would sign up for 500 at this point in the season. And I think it's a representation of the team. The team has had really good moments and really bad moments. When you add it all up, that leaves you at 10-10. I do expect the team to be much better in the second half. I think the rest is going to do wonders for the team, really reset them, refocus them. Almost all Chicago Sky players are resting. We have Dolson playing for Team USA in the 3-on-3 competition, which we'll talk about in a little bit in the next segment. But for right now, let's stay focused on Chicago Sky and their final game before the All-Star break. So yeah, they're 10-10, and I really think that again, the break's going to do wonders for this team. When the team was healthy and fully loaded, they won much more than they lost, and I think that's gonna pan out in the second half of the season. The more we get into it, once we get into it after the break. So again, next game is going to be August 15th. The previous game we haven't talked about was the game against the Mystics, where the Chicago Sky lost. And yeah, I'm looking forward to, after the Olympics are over, seeing this team back fully healthy, ready and raring to go. I'm really excited about that. I still think the Chicago Sky, in my opinion, are going to be one of the favorites, and they're going to be one of the teams in that conversation, deciding who ultimately wins this championship. Even with all the problems the Sky have had, being a kind of a disappointing 10-10, they're still 5th in the WNBA, so they're still in that upper echelon, and I expect them to climb a couple more spots and maybe get up to 2nd, 3rd, or 4th. I don't think they'll get that top spot. Right now, the Storm only have 5 losses, so it's tough to make up 5 games with only half the season left. I do expect them to make some strides here and go up in the rankings just a little bit. And again, even now, top 5 team in the league, I expect them to be in that top 3, top 4, top 2 maybe. And I still think that they're going to be a very tough team to beat come playoff time if they're healthy. All right, so it looks like it's finally here. It's going to happen. We're having the Olympics. We know there's been trouble with COVID and questions about whether this even made sense, but we're having the Olympics. We're proceeding with caution, and hopefully, things can continue on safely. They really haven't even been that great now. Even at the time of this recording, which is pretty much the opening day, it's been rough. So, I'm just hoping that no one gets seriously sick, and I'm hoping we're able to have it as safely as possible. But it looks like that in itself is kind of asking for something that's not possible. But hey, we're here now, and it definitely puts a damper for me personally on being as excited as I normally am for the Olympics. Normally, I do enjoy the Olympics a lot. This year, I'm definitely enjoying them significantly less. Even just the hype. It's just hard to be excited when you're hearing stories of players unable to go, players again, a 14-day quarantine in an event that lasts that long. Is just pretty much devastating, and we've already seen teams have to go back, players not able to go. Katie Lou, former Chicago Sky player, is not going to be part of the 3-on-3 competition because she got COVID, and with the 14 days and the tournament starting immediately, it's just not going to happen. So those things are devastating, and I'm trying to still be excited and cheer on the players, but I totally understand people's frustration or confliction, because I even have it. I want to be excited, and I'm a little excited still, but definitely not as much as I would be in a normal year. Hopefully, again, get vaccinated, wear a mask, keep your distance. Let's hope that we can get out of this sooner rather than later, and hopefully the next time we have an Olympics, it can be a bit more normal or literally normal. But having said all that, let's talk about the Olympics, and let's talk about Team USA. Now, when it comes to the general Team USA playing, traditional 5-on-5 basketball, it has games starting on July 27th against Nigeria, July 30th against Japan, August 2nd against France, and then August 3rd and 4th, the quarterfinals begin if Team USA qualifies, which I expect them to, of course. That's when those games happen. I'm not going to actually give you the times for them because the times get kind of crazy. Again, it's all in Tokyo, different time zones, and it's just probably going to be very early if you're an American. Doesn't matter if you're Eastern, Central, Pacific. It's super, super early. For reference, I'll give you the first one for USA versus Nigeria. It's at midnight Eastern time, 12:40 to be exact, Eastern time. So that's already a very late game. And then, if you go further back, it's going to be very different. So it's going to be very weird. It's kind of cool that the Olympics happen in different parts of the world. So we kind of have to adjust ourselves if it's not in a traditional, time zone that's, normal for Americans. But I kind of like that. It's kind of weird. It's kind of different. Sometimes to, make a pot of coffee. Maybe you got to make one to stay up or make one to go to wake up or something like that. But it's going to be interesting. It's going to make it challenging. And for me, as the person covering the Olympics, from home, of course, but just, making articles and being part of the media availability, it definitely is going to be a challenge in trying to figure out how to cover and staying up for things and making sure we're active in it and checking it out. So it's going to be interesting, and definitely obviously rooting for Team USA. There are no Chicago Sky participants in Team USA. In the main team, of course, we had a lot of players, try out and compete. We talked about Dolson being there, and she's with the 3-on-3 team, which we'll talk about in a moment. And, Copper played a little bit, and so did the Shield. So they had their moments with Team USA and training, but never ultimately made the team. It's very tough to make the Team USA team. Team USA has a lot of options, and there's only so many spots. So it's rough, and unfortunately we have no Chicago Sky players there, but definitely going to still be rooting on Team USA and hoping they get the job done and win the gold. And of course, from the Chicago Sky perspective, we do have one participant, Stephanie Dolson, in the 3-on-3 tournament. At first for the Olympics this year, they're doing a 3-on-3 tournament, and it's an Olympic event, 3-on-3 basketball. So that's really exciting. 3-on-3 basketball is something that's been on the rise in the past, 5-10 years. We've seen it grow internationally. We've seen Ice Cube launch a league, the Big Three, which kind of has like ex-NBA players, playing 3-on-3 half-court competition, and that's definitely, bolstered that kind of basketball up a little bit. And here it is at the Olympics, which I think is great. I think we learn a lot about the game from looking at it from different perspectives and playing a game that's half-court, that's shorter, periods of time, different format of roster with having it be 3-on-3 and one player as an option off the bench is really interesting. So for Chicago Sky, we have Stephanie Dolson representing Team USA, which is obviously such an honor and so exciting to see her, be part of Team USA and qualify for the Olympics and be part of the Olympic team, especially the very first one. That I think that's very special and awesome. I'm sure she's enjoying that and is going to do her best to bring home the gold. So along with Stephanie Dolson, we have Alicia Gray, Kelsey Plum, and Jackie Young. Jackie Young was a recent addition because unfortunately Katie Lou Samuelson did get COVID, and she is unable to attend the competition now. So the Team USA had to get a replacement, and the replacement was Jackie Young. So for the 3-on-3 competition, there's actually going to be quite a few games, and they're starting this week. So make sure you're keeping an eye on it. Hopefully you hear this podcast before those games happen. It's going to happen July 24th, which is this upcoming Saturday, USA versus France. Same day, later in the day, USA is going to play Mongolia. And again, the time zone thing, it gets really crazy. It's 1:55 a.m. PT and 5 o'clock a.m. PT. So again, if you're in the West Coast, then it's 1:55 for that first game. If you're in Central Time, it would be 3:55. If you're in the East Coast, it's 4:55. Either way, we can all agree that is extremely early, or you're having an extremely, extremely late night out. So those games are going to be tough. I'm here actually no longer in Central Time. I'm in the West Coast time. So I'm going to figure out, what am I doing? Am I going to bed early? Am I staying up the whole time? Especially probably that 5 a.m. game. I want to watch both games. So I'll probably have to, somehow go to bed early and try to wake up. I don't know what I'm doing. It's going to be interesting for me as well, figuring that out. That 1:55 one's a killer. For me, the 5 a.m.'s not too bad. It's a bit rough, but 1:55 and then 5 a.m. Yeah, that's not very kind, but we'll deal with it. Obviously, the players have to deal with the time zone difference and adjusting to that, and then playing those games and then back-to-back games in the same day because the games are a bit shorter. It's a different, interesting concept. I still think it's a bit odd, but that's how things are working with the 3-on-3 games. And 1:30 a.m. Pacific time, and then we have another game at 5:25. So again, these games are gonna be very early, and we'll have to figure out how we're all gonna watch them and work through it. But I really hope you do support the 3-on-3 tournament. And Stephanie Dolson, obviously Chicago Sky representing, Skytown USA is the hashtag we're using. So definitely want to support Stephanie Dolson and also Team USA and also the event itself. It's different basketball. It's 3-on-3 basketball, and for more people watching it, more people supporting it, it's gonna make it even bigger, make it even more popular, and make sure it comes back next year. Olympics are always evaluating what sports should be included, what sports shouldn't be included, what sports will come back, what sports will get taken away. So if we want to keep adding more basketball to the Olympics, then this is a great way to do it. So if you can, go ahead and make sure you're watching. If that's too early for you, watch the replay. Maybe look at the times that work for you to watch other games, and just let the Olympics know that you're watching and that you're supporting it and that you liked watching 3-on-3 basketball. I think that's healthy for basketball, for more viewing options and more people watching different types of basketball games. All right, and that's going to conclude the Sky in the Sky podcast for this week. This one was a bit shorter. We just kind of wrapping up the All-Star game, wrapping up what's going on with the Olympics. I'm going to be doing a lot of coverage on Team USA on the Sky in the Sky .wordpress.com site. I'm going to be, watching all the games, recaps of what's happening with Team USA. I'm not sure if I'll do individual game recaps or just a recap of the day since they're having back-to-back games. I think maybe recap of the day with the back-to-back games makes more sense. That way you can just read one article and see all the things that happened with Team USA in the 3-on-3. I'll probably do a little bit of the main team, but again, I'm looking at my website's more on the Chicago Sky perspective. So it's really just geared towards that. And Dolson is obviously a Chicago Sky member playing in this tournament. So I'm going to be really interested to see, how she does and how Team USA does. They qualified pretty well, so I'm hoping that they can take that success and roll it over into the rest of the Olympics. So we're going to take a little bit of a break here from the Chicago Sky podcast because we have the Olympic break here, and I'm going to let the Olympics kind of play out and see what happens, and then we'll do a recap episode before the WNBA season kicks off again. Again, the Chicago Sky play again August 15th. So right before, maybe the 13th or 14th, I'll launch another podcast kind of updating everyone on what's happening in the Olympics. We'll talk about the big moments. We'll talk about, did Team USA get all the gold medals in basketball? Did the men reclaim their gold there and secure the gold again? Did the women do the same thing? And then did the 3-on-3 team win the gold? Here's hoping that we go 3 for 3 in those events, and we'll talk about it. We'll break it down, and then we'll break down the next section of the schedule for the Chicago Sky, the next quarter of the season that we have. We just finished the halfway point, and we're kind of in that third quarter, and we will talk about what games are coming up in the third quarter, how I think the team's going to do, and how it goes against my overall record for the team, and I'm really excited to dig into that. So we're going to go ahead and do that for the next podcast, which again won't be until after the Olympics. So for now, stay subscribed, stay listening, catch up on the old podcast. Make sure you're following me on Twitter, Sky in the Shy, at twitter.com. That's where you can find me for all my Chicago Sky coverage, for kind of up-to-date tweets, and I'll be talking a lot more game to game there and having fun with everyone there on these games and on the games that are happening. So make sure you're following me there, and we'll come back with another podcast right before the WNBA season begins again. Well, thanks again for watching. My name is Edwin Garcia, and I'll see you on the next podcast.